Hi, John with eTrailer. If you're ready to upgrade the refrigerator in your camper, either because it quit working or you want to upgrade to just a 12-volt model and get rid of the propane, well, check this out. This is the Furrion Arctic. This is a 12-volt side-by-side residential style refrigerator, and we installed it on our 2019 Grand Design Momentum. So right off the bat, there's a couple of things that we learned on this installation that I want to share with you up front. Number one is going to be the power requirements. This camper had a Norcold refrigerator in it that ran on AC power and propane. Now there was 12 volts back there, but that was really just to operate the fridge controls. This unit here is a true 12 volt fridge, so it has a 12 volt compressor back there, so the power requirements are going to be higher. It can draw upwards of 19 amps. So one of the things that we had to do was run additional wiring for a dedicated circuit for this refrigerator. It's not the end of the world. As a matter of fact, it was probably one of the easier things we had to do to get this refrigerator in here. But that is something that we didn't know that we needed when we went into this installation. Now, the second thing that we found that was going to be a challenge was the dimensions of the fridge. Now, the Norcold that we replaced was 36 inches in width, and this Furrion comes in at just under 34 inches. So there is going to be a gap on either side. We're going to get into that on the install video, but these are just some important challenges that you need to think about when you're looking to install this refrigerator. I mean, with that being said, though, this is a great option and a great upgrade fridge for your camper. So I think the biggest advantage to this fridge is the fact that it's just a single power 12 volt. You know, when I was growing up, if you were going down the road and you wanted your fridge to run, you would have had to use the propane option. And of course, that has its own challenges and dangers. I mean, it worked great, but nowadays with a refrigerator, a residential style like this, or one that's only AC, you're going to have to get an inverter or something else to power your fridge, and it's just this makes it one less thing that you need. If you have a solar setup, which everyone is going to, then you've got a way to charge your battery bank, and then your battery bank is going to power your fridge. And it's just nice to be able to know that your food is being chilled going down the road, and you don't have to worry about a flame out or any propane problems. Now, the Furrion fridge does have a lot of nice features too. We can go over here. First of all is going to be, it does have a function lock on it, so you don't accidentally hit this and turn something on or off. One of the things it has, this icon here, is going to be an off-grid or a vacation mode. And what that does is, if you need to conserve power for whatever reason, if it's a cloudy day, it's just going to operate the fridge and freezer at a different temperature and still keep everything nice and cold for you, but it's going to conserve your power. The other thing that it has as well is going to be kind of like my fridge at home has. It's going to have a super freezer and a super fridge mode. And what that is, this is going to be super freezer mode and then super fridge mode. And you can run those independently as well. Basically what that does is it runs the compressor on the fridge for a predetermined amount of time. So that if, say, you went grocery shopping and just chock this full on either side of groceries, it's going to run that compressor and it's going to chill your food quicker, and it'll keep it fresher for you. Now, if we take a look on the inside of the fridge, this is going to be 15.6 cubic feet, which is quite a bit for a camper. But basically, you're going to have plastic shelving that's adjustable on the doors. These are glass shelves on either side, and you have some adjustments with these. And then down below, you're going to have two bins on the freezer side and two bins on the refrigerator side. They're on the smaller size, but the top one's a good size for deli meats or produce or whatever. So all in all, I think this 12-volt fridge is a great option. In our case, we have a camper that's going to roll down the road, but if you have an off-grid campsite, or even a camper that you're full timing in and it doesn't move anywhere, then it's even better for you. You know, we had our own set of challenges when installing this because this is going to move down the road, and so being a residential refrigerator, we ended up having to secure it differently than the Norcold was. So if you want to watch this installation video, we can show you some of the stuff that we ran into, some of the problems that we had. And just know that your situation might be a little bit different. It just depends on your setup. Ours was in a slide. Yours may not be. So let's kick it to install. Okay, so before we begin our installation, there's a few things that we need to think about. Number one is going to be the space requirements. So you're going to want to measure your old fridge, height and width and depth, and you want to measure your doorway to your camper to make sure that you're going to be able to get things out. Now, one thing I know for sure is these doors are going to have to come off. We don't know yet if we're going to have to remove this island to get it out of the way. So these are all things. We're going into this video kind of blind. Every time you do a job like this, it's going to be kind of custom. And so there's a lot of things that you need to consider, the size of the new fridge as well. Now we know the new fridge is going to be a little bit smaller in diameter wise, so we're not going to have any space issues with this one. This is a 36-inch fridge. The fridge that we're installing is going to be slightly narrower, coming in at 32 3/4. So we will have to do trimming later on in the video to trim this cabinet out. So we've got everything protected right now. We have the floors protected with the box that the new fridge came in. We've got this countertop. We expect that we're going to be able to pull this fridge out, take the doors off. Hopefully it'll fit in between this walkway here, and we should be able to slide it out this way. We just don't know yet. But first things first, we're going to have to go around to the back side. We have a few connections that we need to look at. Okay, we're outside the camper here. This is going to be the back side of the fridge. Wherever your refrigerator is mounted, more than likely you're going to have a panel that you need to take off here. These were just quarter turns, so they're pointing straight up and falling off. Behind this panel here is going to be your fridge connections. Now, this one here is a Norcold. This is the fridge that came with this camper. Now, this is a tri-power. This is going to be propane, 12 volt, and then house power, 120 volts here. So there's a few things we need to think about. Since we are replacing this with a 12 volt fridge, the only thing that we're going to be using back here is going to be the 12 volt lines. It's not a big deal just to unplug the 120 and the propane. We're going to need a cap. More than likely, this is also going to feed the stove. So we'll need to see if we're just going to put a union in here or if we're just going to put a cap over here. Things we need to contend with. This refrigerator is going to be bolted down or screwed down with this plate. So we're going to have to get a Phillips head screwdriver and get this up and see what else is holding this fridge in before we can slide it out of its compartment. Okay, so you have all of these screws out of the bottom here. There still might be more that's holding our fridge on, but for right now, we're going to handle some of these connections here. So unplugging it from the wall is easy enough. They had an outlet over here. Our 12 volt lines, do yourself a favor and identify your lines and then disconnect them. Not everyone's going to have these Wago connectors, but this is easy enough to follow up. We could see the 12 volt. This is going to be your positive and this is going to be your ground. So I pre-labeled these to make sure that we don't get that mixed up in the future. These terminals, they flip up and you can pull the wire out. These things are pretty neat. I use these just about everywhere. So our 12 volts disconnected. The house power, the 120 volt disconnected. Next thing we're going to have is the gas line. Of course, you want to make sure that your propane is shut off. We have already done that. So we're going to disconnect this probably at the fridge right here. Let me get another wrench on this. So you have your one wrench on the body to hold that still. And you can just squeeze the wrenches together and that'll loosen that up. Now it's going to be normal to have the odor of propane, but like I said, that's why you want to make sure that everything is turned off. Okay. So at this point, our fridge is disconnected from power. You're going to want to look up either side. In our case, we do have an upper vent, and so we can check for bracketing up at the top. So my thoughts on this right now is we still have something that's holding this fridge in. We're going to check up on top, and then we're going to check on the inside as well. Now we're back inside the camper. On the Norcold fridge, the upper trim and the lower trim is removable. Just grab this. There's going to be some tabs here. Just gently pull out. Here's the tabs I was talking about. And we can see that they've got this fridge screwed into the cabinet work. So there's going to be probably the top and the bottom comes off the same way. They're going to have screws down there as well. Okay, so with the top and the bottom screws, I can give this a pull and we can see that the refrigerator is loose now. Now these things are very heavy, so you're definitely going to want some help when you're maneuvering this out of the camper. For right now, I'm going to kind of scoot this out. I want to take the doors off and try to get a measurement of how deep the refrigerator is compared to our countertop here to see if this is going to be feasible to get this out. Okay, I was able to get the fridge pulled out this far, and this is what I wanted because this finishing trim right here is bolted to the fridge itself. So we're going to pull this off because we need it as narrow as possible to get out the door, and we're also going to pull the doors off. You're going to have 4 screws holding that top hinge on. Once you get those loose, just like this, you can lift the door right off. I wanted to show you the side trim here. Once you get all the bolts out, you can detach it from the top and the bottom. It'll just kind of slide out like that. Okay, so as you work your way around, we can do that. The next one I wanted to show you real quick was to get the lower doors off. You're going to have this plastic trim piece here. Let me open the door. You can reach your finger back behind here, and then I'll pop that out like that. And then these are going to be the bolts right here for the lower door. Same as the top doors. Just go ahead and lift up and they'll pop right off. So we have the doors off, but we still have some electronics that are sticking out. The goal of this is to make this as light as possible and as narrow as possible so we can hopefully get it out of the door. So over here we're going to have just a regular 1/4 inch sheet metal screw, and then to the inside on this particular model, if you look down inside of here, you're going to have 2 tabs. I'm going to use a right angle pick, and I'm going to pull out on this plastic piece while pushing down in the tabs, and that's going to allow us to get access to those center screws here. And we can see behind this board. So this connector has been foamed in. Looks like we can disconnect the board though. So at least the big bulky items are out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing with this side here. Okay, so we have all of the doors off the front. We have anything that's protruding, including the bottom hinges. And we're going to just do our best right now. We haven't tried this off camera yet. We don't know if this fridge is going to come out and contact this. So we're going to pull this. The nice thing is this does have handles. I got Tom here to help me. These Norcolds are notoriously heavy, and this is going to be a tight fit. If we can tilt. How you looking? Okay. Yep.
Last step.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, up.
Perfect. Down to the ground. Okay, so I'm going to call that a win in my book. We got the old fridge out, the main entrance. We were able to maneuver it around the island and slide it out of here. Now, yes, it was a tight fit. The fridge with the doors off all the way to these back coils back here is around 26 inches. And our door, just to let you know, the numbers we're working with on our camper today, that main door is at 28 inches in width. So it did fit. It took 3 of us to get this thing out, especially when we got closer to the stairs here. So these Norcolds are pretty heavy. I know that the Furrion units are a little bit lighter. They're only 12 volts, so they're not going to have all of this extra weight on the back side of it. From here, we're going to clean up on the inside, get some dimensions, and we're going to get the Furrion inside the camper. Okay, so we've got the new Furrion fridge here. We're going to do the same thing as the other one. We're going to take the doors off. Anytime that you can reduce weight and dimension on a major appliance like this when you're going up the stairs, it's a good thing. So if you look up here at the top, you're going to have a cover that's covering the hinges. You're going to have 2 Phillips head screws at the first edges right here that are holding that cover on. And once you get those loose, this cover will kind of snap off. It has a connector back here, and then it kind of slides over here. Now you want to do that carefully. Both sides here are going to have a pin switch for the doors, for the door lights. So you need to be careful with that. But the right side door here has the controls on it. And so this connector, we just push down and pull out, and that'll unhook. Now I've got the temperature sensor and the pin switch disconnected from this, so we can set this off to the side. Now the door is being held on. You have 4 8mm screws here that we need to remove. These are going to come off the same way. Once you have the top loose, just pick up on the bottom and the door will come off. Now the left door here will come off the same way. You're just going to have less connectors. You won't have one of these on this door. So just do the same thing to get this door off. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. We were able to get the fridge in the front door and wrapped around right here. Now, when we tried to insert it into the cavity here, we were running into clearance issues up here on top. And it's not just going to be the hinge covers, it's also this power supply panel in the back. Now we can temporarily remove the panel back here, but we're still going to have issues with clearance up here. This edge of this refrigerator is going to be sitting flush with our cabinet here. So we have a couple of options we can look at. One is to remove this upper panel and trim it to allow us to get this in. The other one is the difference between the Norcold and this one. This one has wheels on it. And it sounds nice, except it's going to be in an RV that moves. We may look into just removing the wheels on this so that it's going to sit in place. I'm going to check and see if we have any clearance issues with the bottom door to see if this can sit flat on the ground, if it's okay for it. So that's where we're at right now. Okay, so we ended up taking the wheels off the bottom of the refrigerator. Now, this is not too terribly a hard process to do. What you're going to have is the wheel, and then you're going to have these axles that are aluminum and they're hollow, and they go through. I just ended up using a small screwdriver and hammered them back out. So it appeared that the back ones were not crimped. The back axles were not crimped. The front ones were, but they still drove out just fine. And we took off all 4 wheels. We don't want this rolling around. That's the last thing we want. The front wheels were a little bit larger than the rear ones. So I was hoping to gain some space and be able to get this fridge in the hole here, and it still didn't fit. There's going to be some space requirements for that plastic panel on top, and then eventually, even if we did have enough room to kind of tilt it in and pick it up, the front door cover for the hinges are still going to hit. So what we're going to do is remove this top trim panel These are usually siliconed in and then screwed in with wood screws on the side. We'll get a shot of that in just a second. They did on this one have reinforcement blocks that sat like this on the other side, so it kind of sturdied it up a little bit. So I pried these off on both sides. We'll get a shot of the wood screws on the inside so you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so standing inside where the refrigerator would be, we're looking out, and these are the wood screws that you can see here. They're holding that trim panel on. So in our case today, it looks like these are Phillips heads, so I'm going to get these zipped out. It's possible that this trim board is also siliconed or caulked in. You know, we can see this, and we can see along this top edge here that we have a thin bead of silicone. So we're going to get these screws out on both sides and peel this back. So we definitely had silicone holding that piece on, and it had a top board going along the top here that was holding and also bracing the top of this. So we'll get the silicone removed, and now we can get the fridge in here and start measuring for our trim. We're going to go ahead and get the fridge installed in the hole here. Obviously, you're going to want some help. I've got Thomas here helping me today. You ready? Well, slide it back. Now, I'm not worried about the depth, as this is the same depth as the other fridge. And it was definitely a lot easier to get up here once we had that top trim panel removed. Now that the fridge is where it's supposed to be, we can go through and take a look at a few things. Number one, the fridge is sitting back, it's leaning back, whether that's a compartment or just the fact when we took the wheels off, the way that it's constructed on the bottom. So first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to want to level this with the front of our cabinetry here. So that's one thing I'm going to be looking at right off the bat. Secondly, we're going to put all of the hinges and the doors back on. We want to see how this fridge is going to work with opening the doors, if we need clearance, how much clearance we need on either side. And then finally, once we install the top covers and everything else, we need to see how are we going to complete and trim out our top board up here. Once that's done, once we kind of have a general idea of how to do this, then we can talk about and figure out how we're going to fill this gap on either side. Now, the important things for us, is this fridge going to work in this space? Yes, it is. So with a 12-volt fridge like this, it's different from the Norcold. This fridge loses its heat on the sides. So it cools on the inside and needs to get rid of the heat somehow. This one does it on the top and the sides. So we need to maintain 1 inch of clearance on the sides and the top. Right now, I took the insulation out on the top. We were able to leave the insulation on the sides inside of here. We have more than 1 inch of clearance on either side, so the fridge is going to be able to breathe the way that it needs to work properly. So those are some of the things I'm looking at right now. Okay, so for this next part, what we did was we had this top board out, and we ended up trimming it with the edge, and this is one of those things where it's going to depend on your situation. Ours being built into a slide like this, we don't really have walls that we can tie into. So we're going to be using kind of this flexible molding. This is going to work for us. I mean, most people may not have this laying around. You can get this at the home centers or here at eTrailer. This isn't the only way that you can do this, though. Like I said, this is going to be one of those custom jobs that you stick with what you're good at. If you're good at trim work and woodworking, you can absolutely get some trim panels out here and trim that out. I would still recommend some sort of rubber seal, because the back of this fridge has to be able to be ventilated. So we're putting this flexible molding up. Once the fridge comes forward and is put into position here, this is going to seal against the fridge. That's going to keep bugs and drafts out. as well. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to be installing this trim. I've cut the edge back on this T-track just so it goes up, and once the fridge is installed, I'll be able to cut this and have a nice corner. But in the meantime, we're just going to be stapling this all the way down where the original Norcold had been installed, and so this will cover some of the nicks and stuff that happened when they were installing that fridge. And this just is easy enough, it gets stapled in. Okay, so we were able to get the trim all stapled down, and we have a nice airtight seal, even along the top up here. I had to do some trimming. It's going to be custom no matter what you do. So, but the intent behind this was to keep the outside outside and the inside inside. So we have an airtight, bug-tight seal, and the fridge is supported right now left to right by this top board up here, the way that we notched it and cut it, so it won't go left and right. We can go around back and we'll screw it down. Now that our fridge is secure, before we do any electrical work, we're going to cap off the gas line here for the propane. We had a three-way, and the other option is we could just put a union in here, but a cap is going to work just fine. This is a 3/8" flare cap. If you're doing this at home, normally these caps go on dry with no tape. This is a flare fitting, but I know there's a lot of stuff online where people would like to use it or not use it. For today's video, this is how we do it. And since it's on a T like this, you'll notice I have my vice grips and a 7/16 wrench just to give me a little leverage to tighten this down. So we'll start with that. Propane is pretty stinky stuff, so if you smell even a little bit, you can come back and tighten this up further. Now with that sealed, we're going to take some RTV. From the factory, they had this sealed off, and I don't think it's a bad idea, just to keep insects out and to give this a little bit of more stability. I took the existing grommet ring here and reattached it down, so this is like a firm but flexible kind of a hold that we're looking for on this. Okay, so we have the propane line secured and capped off. The refrigerator is bolted down. We've got the back cover back on. So we get to the point now where we are going to hook this up. And this is the wire that we ran earlier. This is a dedicated line that's tied into our fuse panel. And we ran this all the way and made our connections up at the top of the fridge. Even though our camper came with existing 12-volt wiring, this ended up not being heavy enough to run our refrigerator. That Norcold that we replaced, they run at about 3 amps or so. This refrigerator could run upwards of 20 amps, either on initial startup. You usually won't pull that much while it's operating, but these wires probably in our camper go to a number of different places, and it's just not a dedicated line. And in the end, it wasn't heavy enough to run this compressor. So this line we've got here available at eTrailer, if it's 15 feet or less, which is what our run was in our camper here, 10 gauge is okay for you. If it's longer than 15 feet, they recommend 8 gauge wiring, which it's heavy wiring. So if you can make it shorter in a dedicated run, you're going to be better off. Now with the fridge hooked up to 12-volt power, we can come inside and check the functions of our fridge, and it's doing what we would expect it to do. It's going to be cold and colder on the freezer side. Our fridge has been running for about an hour, and you can absolutely feel a temperature change. So these are the kind of the things you want to make sure if your wire is heavy enough and everything's going to be working normally, then that's really all there is to the installation. We're going to go back to the back of the fridge. We'll secure the wires on the back side and replace our covers. Other than that, that's really going to complete the installation. And that was a look at some of the features and the installation of Furrion's Arctic 12-volt side-by-side residential refrigerator on our 2019 Grand Design Momentum.